रेडी, लिख लो, पहले आप खुद से लिख लो। स्टार्ट इट। I have been, I had been, better than, carried on, their own, our own, which have, who have, you have, out of, advantage, difficult, difficulty, dear sir, yours truly, every circumstance, all circumstances, you will remember, I believe, I will tell you, I am surprised by all means, at all costs, in our opinion, everything, something, anything, nothing, last year, at first, just now, if it is, I am not, you may not, I will not, this word, we would be, at all times, able to make, in there, I know there is, I know there, take their way, I can be there, has to be there, upon there, herein, here on, here at, here to, here of, here with, therein, thereon, thereat, thereto, thereof, therewith, wherein, whereon, whereat, whereto, whereof, wherewith. You will be able to, at the same time, at some time, for some time, this was, that was, according to the, इनके आउटलाइन देख लेंगे एक बारी। तो पहला वर्ड क्या था? आई हैव बीन का हुक लगा दिया। फिर क्या है? आई हैड लाइन से रहेगा, बीन का हुक लग जाएगा। बेटर में देन लगा दो, क्या हो जाएगा? बेटर देन। कैरिड ऑन का हुक हो जाएगा, कैरिड के साथ ऑन पढ़ते हैं। देयर ऑन, आवर ऑन, विच के साथ हैव, हु के साथ हैव, यू के साथ हैव। आउट ऑफ, देखो ये जो हुक है एन का, जब बीन के साथ और हेड, जब आता है हैव के साथ और हेड के साथ, तो क्या पढ़ते हैं? इसको बीन पढ़ते हैं। और बेटर के साथ क्या पढ़ते हैं? देन। और कैरीड के साथ ओन, ओ एन, और देयर के साथ ओ डब्ल्यू एन। फिर ये और के साथ भी ऑन पढ़ते हैं। ये वी का हुक है, इसको हैव पढ़ते हैं। विच हैव, हु हैव, यू हैव। एफ के हुक को पढ़ते हैं ऑफ, आउट ऑफ। एडवांटेज एक ग्रामलोक्स है। डिफिकल्ट लाइन को काटते बनता है, डिफिकल्ट में के लगा दो, क्या हो जाएगा वो? डिफिकल्टी। डियर में सर क्या पढ़ेंगे? डियर सर। योर्स में ट्रूली लगा दिया, योर्स ट्रूली। एवरी सर्कमटेंस, ऑल सर्कमटेंसेस, बड़ा सर्कल लगा देंगे। यू विल रिमेंबर, आई और बी एल लाइन को काटते हुए क्या पढ़ेंगे? आई बिलीव, आई विल टेल यू, आई एम सरप्राइज्ड, लाइन से ऊपर रखना है इसको, सरप्राइज को। बी एल अब लाइन बाई ऑल मीन्स लगा दो, क्या बन जाएगा? बाई ऑल मीन्स एट ऑल कोस्ट्स, इन अवर ओपिनियन। अगर यहां पे डैश लगा देंगे तो क्या पढ़ते हैं इसको? नोर। इसको हाफ कर दो, इन ऑर्डर टू। अगर इसकी डबलिंग कर देंगे, इन ऑर्डर, तो इनमें कंफ्यूज नहीं होते। इसके बाद में एवरी में थिंग लगा दो, एवरीथिंग। सम में थिंग लगा दो, समथिंग। एनीथिंग यहां कट भी कर सकते हो चाहो तो एनी के लिए। फिर उसके बाद में नथिंग। लास्ट में ईयर लाइन को काटते हुए, लास्ट ईयर। एट में फर्स्ट, एट फर्स्ट, जस्ट, नाउ। इफ को हाफ कर दिया, इफ इट सर्कल लगा दिया, इफ इट इज। आई एम में का टी के लिए हाफ, आई मे नॉट, यू मे नॉट। आई विल नॉट, दिस के साथ वर्ड पढ़ेंगे और वी के साथ वुड पढ़ेंगे, वी वुड बी। एट ऑल हाफ क्या? एम एस लगा दिया, एल्टोल टाइम्स। एबल को हाफ के टू के लिए और मेक लगा दिया, एबल टू मेक। इन डबलिंग कर देते हैं किसके लिए? देयर के लिए, क्या पढ़ेंगे? इन देयर। आई नो देयर, आई नो देयर इज। टेक डबलिंग कर दो, टेक देयर वे। देयर के लिए उससे पहले वाले स्टॉक की डबलिंग कर देते हैं, आई कैन बी, आई कैन बी देयर। हैज टू बी देयर। ये सभी फ्रेजोग्राफी आपने डबलिंग वाले कॉन्सेप्ट में पढ़ी है, बुक के अंदर रिपीटमेंट वाले। अपॉन डबलिंग कर दें, क्या हो जाएगा? अपॉन देयर। हियर इन, हियर ऑन, हियर एट, हियर टू, हियर ऑफ, हियर विद। हियर के बाद में आता है देयर, और देयर के बाद आएगा वेयर। वेयर आता है WH और फिर आर। अगर आप इतना बनाएंगे तो ये क्या ग्राम लोग है? वेदर का। आगे आर लगा दें तो क्या? वेयर। हियर, देयर और वेयर में इन, ऑन, एट, टू, ऑफ, विद लगाने का एक ही पैटर्न होता है। जब आप हेयर देयर वेयर देखते हो, इसके साथ कभी भी इन जोड़ना है, ऑन जोड़ना है, एट जोड़ना है, ऑफ जो टू जोड़ना है, ऑफ जोड़ना है। ये ओ डबल एफ वाला ऑफ है। और विद जोड़ना है तो सेम पैटर्न में जुड़ता है, जैसे हियर इन, ऐसे ही देयर इन, देयर ऑन, देयर एट, देयर टू, देयर ऑफ, देयर विद। ऐसे ही वेयर के साथ, वेयर इन, वेयर ऑन, वेयर एट, वेयर टू, वेयर ऑफ और वेयर विद। फिर क्या वर्ड था इसके अंदर? यू विल बी एबल टू। यू विल बी, एबल को हाफ कर दो टू के लिए, एबल टू। वी आर, एबल को हाफ कर दो टू के लिए, एबल टू। एट द सेम टाइम, उसके बाद आता एट सम टाइम। ये जो एम है पहले वाला, ये हाफ होता है टाइम के टी के लिए, और दूसरे वाला नॉर्मल फॉर्म में बनता है पूरा कंप्लीट, फॉर सम टाइम, ये एम हाफ होता है। दिस के साथ वाज और दैट के साथ वाज भी कंप्लीट बनता है, या दैट वाज, दिस वाज, अकॉर्डिंग टू द, लाइन से ऊपर अकॉर्डिंग। अकॉर्डिंग में अंतर करने के लिए तुम चाहो तो अकॉर्ड और अकॉर्डिंग में आईएनजी लगा सकते हो, लेकिन अकॉर्डिंग टू द ये बन जाता है। आप डिक्टेशन लिखेंगे 100 पे, पहले कॉमन वर्ड से, कॉमन वर्ड पार्ट 2C से, और फिर लो पे लिखेंगे। देखो फ्रेजोग्राफी, अगर रामलोक्स में कहीं कंफ्यूजन है तो दूर कर लो साथ साथ ही। ये एक ऐसी चीज है, अगर आप इनको कैरी फॉरवर्ड नहीं कर सकते। 80% कंस्ट्रक्शंस होता है इन वर्डों को लेके, किसी भी सेंटेंस के अंदर कॉमन वर्ड्स को लेके जो बात कर रहे हैं। लिखो, डिक्टेशन लिखो। Start it. Mr. Deputy Chairman, sir, we are aware that democracy is constantly changing its laws to suit the changing needs of the times as they arise. In a democracy, when a decision has been arrived at, it is accepted by majorities and minorities alike till the same should be changed at a later date in the prescribed way. Today we have a new map of India, and since a decision has been taken, it is our sacred duty to accept it. If any changes should be needed at a later day, they can easily be introduced in the same manner as the present ones have been done. So far as languages are concerned, I believe they should be allowed to solve their problems themselves. Any artificial attempt will hardly help us to reach the desired goal. In a democracy, everybody has got to be educated to be able to play his proper part as a citizen. It is also obvious that such universal education can be given in no language other than the mother tongue. It is also not right to wait for education to be imparted in a particular language till adequate literature in that is ready for the purpose. No language and no literature can grow or have grown in that manner. We have to start teaching in the languages in which we want education to be given. There would certainly be a very great deal of mixing of various languages in the circumstances in which we are placed today. Technical expressions will have to be bodily accepted to begin with in large numbers. Such mixture has taken place everywhere, and we should not trouble ourselves. There would certainly be a very great deal of mixing of various languages in the circumstances in which we are placed today. If the same thing takes place here as well, all living languages have the capacity to absorb suitable words from other languages and make a part of their own. Our language too should not be deprived of this wholesome natural law and process. If we wait for books to appear before we start, would be like putting the cart before the horse. Literature will follow our attempts to teach in any language of our choice. This process will eliminate most of the difficulties we face today because of language. It will not interfere with the education of anyone in any subject. Mr. Vice Chairman, a humble taxpayer who may not be able to avail for himself or others for whom he may feel responsible of the opportunities that the universities may offer, but who would be compelled to make his contribution for the upkeep of the same through the taxes he pays. The whole scene is not so pleasant as it might otherwise appear. I know for a fact that our university draws up huge budgets running into scores of lakhs of good money which they expect the government or the general taxpayer to find for them. The universities also claim to be completely autonomous bodies and resent what they might suspect as the least interference in their working on the part of anybody. They also take great offense if all the money that they demand is not paid. When the hard-working private citizens find that masses of them have to pay for the universities from which they themselves derive no profit, when they also find that those who come out of these universities are either persons who form a class apart and constitute themselves as rules looking down on them, or are unemployed and thus a burden on society. They have to sit up and think. No one would have any objection to any education that anyone receives, provided that the person concerned pays for it himself. If, however, he expects others to pay so that he may profit than others have produced, the University Grants Commission may not like affiliating the universities, but being a product myself of one of them, I feel that is the type that is most suitable for our country. In such a university, higher education is available to students near their homes. They have no need to lose contacts with their parents and their neighbors, and thus are kept in touch with the actual conditions of their domestic, social and economic life. They can be of help to their parents in many ways when they are at home. The fees that the parents have to pay for their children are also not as high as they would be when they are sent away to universities. It is essential that no one should be cut away from economic conditions. 774 वर्ड है, 100 की स्पीड है. कॉमन वर्ड के पार्ट 2C में से आपका 8 नंबर है. ये 80 पे लिखेंगे. रेडी? Start it. Sir, let us first ask the question as to who is the consumer. The consumer is the buyer of goods for a consideration. We must understand that anywhere in the world and in any economy, it is the consumer who matters. But it is very unfortunate that the importance of the consumers has not been taken seriously, especially in our country in the last so many years. It was the Prime Minister who understood with his foresight that it is finally the consumers who matter. It was for this reason that in 1996 he brought forward this bill for consumers' protection. This was enacted in the interest of the consumers, and for that consumer councils had to be set up all over the country for the settlement of consumer disputes. But what had happened? In the first 2 years, 40 districts were covered out of 455. But after that change of government, there was no further effort. In fact, the consumers had to move the Supreme Court, which directed the setting up of the councils within 6 weeks. This was 2 years ago, but the progress is very slow, although they took a decision regarding the order under section 2. the state government have defaulted only half of the districts have been covered so far. What I would like to stress is it is not just a question of enacting a law, it is a question of implementing that law. Are our officers, are our manufacturers inspired enough to accept this kind of thing? Are they inspired enough to look to the interests of the consumers? It is for this reason we have to see to the protection of the interests of to consumers. How do we save our consumers from adulteration? How do we save our consumers from monopolists? Of course, there is red tapeism in the government which also comes in the way. How do we save our consumers from red tapeism? Now, when we talk about consumer councils, I think many members of parliament do not even know that there are these consumer councils. The process is so cumbersome that it is not really worthwhile to go to the consumer councils. The harassment is so much that the consumer reconciles to the fact that it is better to keep quiet. Mr. Chairman, sir, while looking back on our achievements during the past 50 years, we can raise our head with dignity. We can raise our head smartly. We attained political freedom 50 years ago, and today we should march towards economic freedom. Our schemes, including the 9th five-year plan, which will come before you in a few days' time, will lead the country towards the goal of economic independence. The 50 years hard work of our countrymen has borne fruit. Today, whether it is Delhi city or villages or our laborers and our farmers are taking the country on the path of economic progress by their hard work. Today, no country in the world can remain isolated. So the United Front government has formulated a common minimum program. This program is multi-purpose and our effort is to touch upon those sectors of economy where some kind of deadlock has crept in. Sir, you are all aware and you remember that in the last 50 years, this country has strived to set up a large number of public sector units. Some companies are facing problems and we are trying to solve those. Ever since I have taken over, I have paid special attention to public is that so far as possible, public sector companies should be spiced with fresh life so that the country increases its wealth and the people's prosperity. Today, whether it is Delhi or outside within the country or city, we understand that new roads, need to be built. Industries have to increase, for which the infrastructure issues like power, post and telegraph and telecommunications have to be provided. Unless we do so, our economy may not be able to progress. That is why the United Front government is focusing and stressing on these issues. I am proud to state that our economy grew at a rate of nearly 7% last year. This has happened for the first time to our history, that as we attain new objectives, we aim even higher. We strive and aspire that with the efforts of labor, we aspire that with the efforts of laborers and farmers, our growth rate should move towards 10%, as the real strength of the country lies with the farmers. 759 वर्ड्स है, 80 की स्पीड है, और कॉमन वर्ड के पार्ट 2C का ये 9 नंबर है। दोनों में से कोई भी अच्छी लिखे वो टाइप करेंगे, अदरवाइज